This is Emily Ross, LPC, and well, welcome today. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe and adjust your notifications so that you don't miss any of this free mental health content. Today is actually my day off, so here I am in some combination of regular people clothes and my pajamas because didn't expect to do this today, but I woke up with a video on my mind and a script kind of already playing along, and then I looked at my messages, and sure enough, there was a question in there that was being answered by me before I even knew the question was there, because that's how this works for me, and very intuitive therapist. So that's a little glimpse into how it feels to be Emmy. So one question I keep getting is, what does PTSD do to the brain? And I'm going to tell you, but I really want you to move away or shift from thinking about what does any mental health issue or emotion do in my brain and what does it do in my body. Because the truth is, when you're asking what does PTSD do in my brain, you're really wondering about what it's doing in your whole body, because it's not just your brain that's impacted by it. It does start there, and I got this really cool brain off my wish list. Thank you, Rachel. We have a wish list on Amazon to have some visuals and some other aids to help people learn the mental health content. So if you're feeling generous today, go ahead and check out the wish list in my link tree and send us something that we can teach you with, because this is super exciting. So now, because of Rachel being generous, I get to show you where it is in the brain. This is your brain. And when I show you the parts that are involved, you're going to laugh, because this little itty bitty, teeny tiny, going to be tough to see it spot in the brain is really the start of it all. So pretend we're in person and we're sitting here talking. Everything that's happening around you right now is getting filtered through your amygdala, which is that little teeny tiny green speck right there. That's your amygdala. So everything gets filtered through your amygdala, through your five senses. So you're thinking about, or your brain's processing, you're not really thinking about it, your brain's processing the temperature, the sound of my voice, the words I'm saying, my body language, my posture. And as long as everything's a-okay with the amygdala, it'll go through to your frontal cortex, which is right here. Funny story. I got this brain, love this brain. You know, I like traditional Chinese medicine. Well, I got my brain in traditional Chinese medicine, and so that was fun because I don't know how to read it. So this is your frontal cortex, and when the amygdala decides everything's okay, it'll send it to your frontal cortex, and that'll help you generate responses. It'll help you decide, oh, I'm going to sit still and listen. I can integrate this information and think of a response. Now, remember, I said we're in person. So now if I stood up and came at you with a knife, your amygdala would be like, oh my gosh, I've got to keep this person alive. It would cut off communication with your frontal cortex, which is responsible for reasoning, and it would put you into fight or flight. That's what happens in the brain. That's it. This little dot, that little green dot, and this part of your brain stop talking. When they stop talking, your central nervous system floods your bloodstream with testosterone, cortisol, and adrenaline. So when that happens, you get the energy and the acuity to fight and protect yourself. So if you've never had a significant trauma, the best way to mimic that feeling would be if you've ever almost got into a car accident and narrowly escaped, but you thought you were going to get hit. You get that, we call it like an adrenaline dump. That's really adrenaline, cortisol, and testosterone. That's what it feels like. So after repeated trauma, the amygdala, that dot, and your frontal cortex, they get in like a standoff. They don't bother to reconnect as well. Each time they're kind of like, do we connect? Do we not connect? So they're like BFFs in a standoff. They don't really want to connect. They think after a while, and being put in scary, life-threatening situations over and over and over, it kind of decides that it's better to just keep you vigilant. And so that's what happens. And back to what gets dumped in your bloodstream, it's on a reuptake system. So those chemicals get dumped into your bloodstream, and when your body decides that you're safe again and that doesn't need that, it will suck them back up into the neurotransmitters. Over time, I don't want to say your body gets lazy, because our bodies are very efficient, but over time it's like, she might need this still. She might need this again quickly. Why don't we not take up as much, right? So what happens is you have this heightened central nervous system response that over time really wears down your body, because our bodies are not meant to truly be in constant vigilance all the time. It disturbs sleep, because you can't keep yourself alive if you're sleeping. It disturbs all kinds of things. So when people ask me, like, what are the chronic repercussions of trauma, it's not about the brain and my mind. It's about the rest of the impact it has on your body. So when your cortisol levels are high, it's hard to lose weight. It's hard to be a healthy weight, because your body just stores everything because of the cortisol. So it gets hard to do that. So you can be exercising and you won't lose weight. And so that leads to health repercussions. So there's a lot of repercussions to the body from trauma over time. If I was talking about traditional Chinese medicine, which if you watch any of my videos, you know I do, the repercussions on that, in that way of thinking, would be the liver, not the liver. I always want to say the liver because I'm angry. The kidneys. Kidneys hold fear. So a kidney meridian will be clogged, or the qi energy will be stagnant. You see chronic kidney disease. If you would listen to Louise Hay, she would say chronic kidney disease is an indication of chronic PTSD, or the repercussions of trauma in the body. So when you think about how does PTSD or trauma impact me, I want you to think less about what did it do to my brain and more about what does it do to my whole body. Because knowing that can help you leverage ways to heal it, right? It's all knowledge. It's all ways we can work with our whole mind, body, spirit to heal. So the other question I got, and the one that I woke up with on my mind, was, does someone ever heal from trauma? And the short answer is yes. But I think that a lot of the times when people ask that, they're not really asking, will I be healed from trauma? They're asking me, will I ever be cured of trauma? And the answer to that is no. Because when we think about being cured from something, we think of it being eradicated from us. And that's not ever going to happen with trauma. And if you work with me long enough, you won't want it to be. It becomes a part of who you are, and the responses are familiar to you. And if you eradicated that whole piece of you, you would cease to be you anymore in a way that would be really uncomfortable. There are some treatments that do promote that. Ketamine treatment really eradicates the elevated central nervous system response. But what you find with that is sometimes people panic because they've been this for so long that it's very uncomfortable and they want to go back to that. They didn't realize, people don't often realize that there's parts of the responses that they enjoy. And I'll use myself for an example. I love that revved up feeling. I love my central nervous system feeling activated. I love the energy of it. I love the mental acuity that comes with it. I would miss that if I didn't have it anymore. So I don't want to be cured from that. And when you're cured of something, you get rid of all of it. You don't get to keep the parts you like and get rid of the parts you don't, right? So no, you can't be cured of it. And I know sometimes we think we want to be, but I want to teach you to not feel that way, or get you to consider not feeling that way. And one of the things I do in therapy that I think is pretty unique as a counselor is I'll have people for homework come up with what they like about the dysfunction, right? So if you come in with anxiety and panic attacks, I'll send you home and say, tell me what you like about anxiety. Tell me what you love about anxiety. Tell me what you'd miss if anxiety was gone. And PTSD is an anxiety disorder. So it's the same thing. What do you like about your PTSD? Does it help you be able to scope out a room without even thinking about it? Does it help you pay closer attention to details? Are you intuitive about other people's emotions? Because you had to be to survive, right? Those are all things that end up being super beneficial to us as humans, and we can pull them, I pull that into my therapy all the time. I walk out to get a client and I know how they feel. If you back me into a corner, I could probably sit down and tell you the parts of their body language that made me know that, but I just know it and I go with it because I'm usually right. That's a benefit of a trauma response. I would miss that if I didn't have it anymore. So no matter what mental health disorder or mental health struggle you come to me for, my treatment plan really stays the same. It's figure out how your brain works, how your brain thinks, how your body responds, and then decide the parts that you like and that are beneficial to you and capitalize on those, and figure out the parts that are detrimental or causing difficulties in your life and learn how to mitigate those, right? Mitigate the parts that are hard, capitalize on the parts that are good, and then you have a wonderful life because you're now in control of whatever the disorder started out as, the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD response. So that was 2 questions kind of rolled into one. What does PTSD do in the body? Because we're thinking of the whole body. And then, do we cure PTSD or depression or anxiety? And the answer is, I don't want you to cure it. I would like you to heal it so that you're in charge of your responses and you feel in control of it, but you get to keep the benefits. I hope that made sense. Hope you already hit subscribe. Hope you knew to adjust your notifications so you get all this free mental health content. Please feel free to ask your questions. You can ask them in the comments on this video. You can send them over on my Facebook page, Jasper. You can, that's Jasper. He says hi. You can send me a private message. Those were private message questions. I will never out you. You just tell me what you need to know, and I will. Sometimes I can explain it back written. Sometimes I really need to show and talk more to explain a really difficult concept. So later today we're going to do, I'm so excited for this. I got more stuff off the wish list that's super fun to play with, and hopefully a different and creative way for you to understand trapped emotions and how to leverage what I'll teach you about emotions to have better control over which ones show up when. So thanks again for tuning in. Emily Ross, LPC, and the super secret hidden Matthew behind the scenes in our honorary cat, Jasper.